Hey everyone, hope all of you listening find yourself safe and well. Now that May is officially here, we as a community and a church and a state are asking questions about how, when, and even if we should be reopening at this time. Asking ourselves what data or values are helping us decide. This conversation involves a lot of talk about healing and life, and there's a lot of charged energy around what life means in relation to opening up society and how we hold the tension of social distancing being the scientific healthiest approach for right now, with a real desire and need to open up our economy, the real financial needs of families across our country. And underneath this is everyone wanting to get back to the life and people we so dearly miss. And a lot of this discourse, faith and Jesus and prayer, kind of get woven in together when we talk about meaning and healing and life. And they should. Faith is an important part of health. I'm reading Richard Rohr's book on the Enneagram in our intern program study group, and Rohr says that when religion is healthy, people are healthy. That when religion is the conscience of society instead of its lapdog, culture is also healthy. And we believe that at FUMC. We have quarterly healing services, we pray for healing, and we devote a large part of our weekly staff meetings to update each other on who's in the hospital, who's sick, and who needs our prayer. And then I hear stories like an Ohio State lawmaker who said that he refuses to wear a face mask, because God created humans without one, and I'm not sure if that logic really tracks. God didn't create humans with pants, and I think we should all still wear them, or shorts at least. Sam's mentioned in his sermon a few weeks ago people saying that Jesus is my vaccine. And Sam said, as United Methodists, we don't see faith and science as antagonists, but more that science answers the how, and faith seeks to know the why of God's creation. We still pray for healing. There seems to be a tension, though, between faith and healing, because we've all heard of seemingly miracle healings, and I don't want to discredit those, and I still pray for those. Yet at the same time, we have all had moments in our lives where prayers for healing feel as if they fall on deaf ears. So how do we reconcile, or at least faithfully live into, this tension? Luckily, as United Methodists, we have a long history of embracing and supporting scientifically informed healing alongside faith healing. John Wesley, our denomination's founding father, wrote about Jesus as priest, prophet, and physician. Jesus as priest is something that seems somewhat self-explanatory. Jesus, we read in Hebrews 4:14, is that we have this great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, that Jesus is the one who established or mediated our way of connecting with God. Jesus as priest means that because of Jesus, we have a direct and immediate access to God. Wesley, writing with a long Christian tradition, wrote of Jesus as prophet, meaning Jesus spoke for God, gave us God's love and will. This is highlighted at the start of the Gospel of John, where it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Many of us are familiar with Jesus as priest and Jesus as prophet. But Jesus as physician? I know I haven't preached much on this topic, and I'm guessing you probably haven't heard many sermons on Jesus as physician. But John Wesley wrote extensively on Jesus as the great physician, the one who brings healing to our lives. Wesley believed that the sickness of sin was like that of a disease, that Jesus could root out these causes and heal us in the ways in which we are separated from God, separated from our neighbors, and separated from ourselves, bringing us into the union with God's original will and creation of healing. But Wesley's understanding of healing was holistic in a broader sense, not simply focusing on the healing of our soul from sin alone, but that Jesus as physician was committed to the ultimate healing of both body and soul. Wesley was deeply concerned with healthcare, seeing the church's role as not just charity and mission as we think of it today, but thought that it was the Christian duty to eliminate the wretchedness, Wesley said, that causes physical sickness. His inspiration to address physical health healing to the sick was motivated by his awareness of the simply inadequate availability and mindfulness of health in his day. A realization that much of the disease which required urgent attention was a consequence of people's ignorance about healthcare and science. Sound familiar? So Wesley didn't just offer immediate mitigation of symptoms, but strived to educate the general public of prevention. To do so, Wesley wrote a book, The Primitive Physic, offering the public and people of his day both an overall preventative approach to health and a long list of remedies for specific ailments. In all, his book contained more than 800 prescriptions for more than 300 sicknesses or disease. Caring for physical health and prioritizing healthy living is a deeply Wesleyan biblical interpretation. The provision of health care for all without regard to status or ability to pay is portrayed in the parable of the Good Samaritan as the duty of every neighbor and every Christian. The Old Testament makes both personal and government responsibility for the well-being of others clear. Speaking through the prophet Ezekiel in chapter 34, verse 4, God condemns the leaders of Israel for failing to strengthen the weak, heal the sick, and bind up the injured. Understanding, believing, and worshiping Jesus as physician helps us take on a similar posture of faith. We read the stories in the Bible of Jesus healing the lepers and the blind, and we pair them with those stories of miraculous healings in our own history. And we pray fervently that healing might come, while also taking seriously that science helps us more deeply and intimately discover how God's creation functions and works. That God has given us a great gift of medicine, and to ignore data and brilliance is to, well, ignore gifts from God. I'm reminded of John Wesley quoting St. Augustine when he said, "Work and preach as if everything depended on you, and pray as if everything depended on God." This captures our religious tension that we strive to be the hands and feet of Christ, doing all the good we can, knowing that where we fall short, God fills in. I thank God for that. Be safe, everyone, and I'll talk to you next week.